From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. Hey, James, how are you today? I'm looking forward to a great conversation, and if you were with us last week, you'll know why. So, James, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, Steve, and yourself?
Doing well, and excited to chat with you, and excited to chat with our guest, who is Fred Loucks. He's the founder of Hyperscale AV, and he was last with us on episode 263. So tune into that if you want to hear some of his background and so forth. But welcome back, Fred.
Absolutely. Really glad to be back.
Thanks for being with us. And last episode we talked about how you got into AV, but I thought what was really great is that you found that you were encountering challenges that you wanted to overcome, and you figured out different ways to approach that, which then translated into solutions and then translated even more into trying to raise the bar in the industry. And I think there's many of us that try to do do things, and that's why we volunteer. That's why
Mm.
we come up with different ways to apply our knowledge. So talk a little bit about some of the findings that you've had, maybe some of the wins that you've had in the monitoring space, which is what we spoke about in the last episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess what I would say is everything that I've done, everything that I've built, this particular windmill that I've chosen to tilt at, it all comes from firsthand experience dealing with this problem in a large scale environment. So as we talked about last time, I was in a large enterprise with 3,000 spaces, trying to figure out like how do I even report on this stuff? Like I can't answer the basic questions like how many rooms do I have? Not like ish, how many? Because there's a finite number, right? Where are they? What is in them? And do they work? Like if we can't answer those four basic questions with like significant um, specificity, right? If we can't actually be clear about those pieces of data, how are we supposed to meet IT expectations at a minimum in these large organizations, right? They know exactly what their uptime is, right? They've been measuring it for over a decade. They're measuring it for 2 decades. They know exactly what the availability of this website is or this cloud service or whatever it is. Uh, and so I think what's interesting for me is that having been in the enterprise space and having, what does AV/IT convergence mean to me? Like what I felt was IT grade expectations placed on AV grade infrastructure, which is not a happy place to be. Yeah, there's some great AV products out there, don't get me wrong, but none of this stuff was built for high availability. None of this stuff was built for geo distribution. None of this stuff was built to load balance requests, right? We build systems on a room by room by room basis, generally speaking. We sometimes will take a box and spread it out across a dozen rooms, which is actually, we're thinking that's really exciting. That's pretty cool. It's actually really bad, right? Because we don't have the things that IT has when we decentralize or when we start to run 10 rooms off of one, box. When IT does that, they've got two highly available servers processing every request, right? If we do it, then now you've just got a single point of failure that applies to, a dozen systems. Or if you did server based at any point in your history, control systems, as I had 600 rooms tied to one server at one point. Just not, relying on hypervisor high availability, right? Well, the VM will go down and it'll come back up. That doesn't save you from a bad config on the server. It doesn't save you from a botched update. It doesn't save you from the service crashing. So I guess, where am I going with this? I think the thing that I learned the most was if we're gonna keep up with IT grade expectations, application grade expectations, we're going to need some new tools. We're going to need to think about things differently because what we're doing doesn't work. It's fine if nobody cares if the room goes down, right? But the second we actually care about that investment, which newsflash, we do now, right? Organizations and businesses care about the investment they make in AV. They invest millions and millions and millions of dollars in these systems. They care to know if they're being used or they're up. And most of us can't answer those fundamental questions. So that for me is kind of what it was all about. It was, how can I answer these questions? How can I, there's got to be an answer out there. And I'm not going to look around in AV too much because we're so, we're bad at this, right? Like we're not really all that good at monitoring. So I'm not going to focus all my effort. I got to find the best AV monitoring system out of the AV industry. No, no, no. I'm going to go look at IT. I'm going to look at software. I'm going to look at the stacks that have been monitoring for decades, and I'm going to find out, what do they know that we don't? What do they do that we didn't do? And the answers are interesting, um, as I've spent a lot of time with it. But my hope is that nobody has to go spend all the time that I spent. Right, the typical AV pro doesn't have the time, and likely not the patience. And the self-flagellation that has occurred in me trying to go find these answers and deal with over and over again failing, right? I would love to, take the beating for other people here and say, listen, just learn from what I did, and try to use this or do this, because there's an answer at the end of this story, and you don't need to figure it out the hard way. So that's probably why I teach and why I want to do these things. Is I just went through the pain, and the pain sucked, and I don't want other people to have to go through that, right?
So, James, it sounds like, people that are on your side of the fence in the AV world will very much benefit from what Fred is talking about, and the idea of having to manage, monitor, and service, so many more systems than you have people. Um, since this problem has been around for a long time, do we are we going to see more of an emphasis on um, turning monitoring into something that's truly functional?
Yeah, we're definitely. Anyone who's been following me long enough knows, I have a community of higher ed folks. We're in my Slack group. There's also the more public one, the HEPMA, and I can tell you, it is a common thing among the community of, we need a monitoring system, not multiple portals. We need easy ways to monitor. The challenge, though, is everyone needs different information. For example, like even myself, when I was a tech, I needed certain information. Now I'm a supervisor and a manager. I need different information. But we should be able to go through the same platform, same interface, whatever, and it should be tailored to what I need, what Steve needs, what UCLA needs, what Yavapai College needs. Like everyone's going to be a little different of what they need, and so each business plus each individual. So it's a lot of tailoring, which I think is becoming the big challenge where Fred is doing a good job because using IT. IT has already done that. Like a network administrator, director is going to want different information into their switches and their infrastructure over the system admin. But they're
Mhm.
probably using the same portal, the same software, and they're just looking at different data that's all coming in.
So, I mean, I guess this really tees it all up to say, why isn't it happening? And
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I'll let Fred take it from there.
I got my own thoughts on that too.
Well, I'll give you the short version. The short version is that monitoring AV sucks. It's really hard to do, and I've got an article out there on LinkedIn. If you search monitoring AV sucks out on LinkedIn, you'll find it, where I get into like the nitty gritty on this. But like let's hit the high points. The high points are, um, the biggest problem is that AV systems and AV devices are not built to be observed. They're built to be controlled. They're designed to be controlled. They are not designed to be observed. And that is the fundamental design flaw and the thing that needs to change within your own environment. You have to stop designing systems purely for control, and you have to go further. Control is a subset of management, right? You have to go further than that and think about, how do I manage the life cycle of this system, right? That means not just read, not just getting data from them, but also write, triggering firmware updates. That's kind of the classic one. But beyond that, running administrative commands, right, doing log dumps or whatever else you might need to do against that asset. It's your asset, right? Once it goes into your environment, it is your asset. You are responsible for it. And so I really encourage people to find a way to own their stuff. Don't lease it from other people. Don't lease access to your own data. Don't, I'm a big believer, especially when you get to the threshold where you have your own AV staff, right, internally, when you are the responsible party for maintaining a set of AV systems, whether you're an integrator providing a service for 50 customers, or a technology manager with a campus or university or whatever it might be, or maybe global at the enterprise level. They're your systems. You've been charged with ensuring that they work. The expectations are now IT grade, which means you need to be able to say they are up. You need to say how often they are up, how often they are down, and measure yourself and your performance against that with with an SLA and building those SLI, the SLIs and the SLOs around that. It is a new world, and if you can't do that, I think you're going to be in a lot of uncomfortable meetings until a resume generating event occurs in which you need to find a new job. Because eventually there's a reckoning. It happens in every organization, right? And right now, we really don't have a lot of options, right? A technology manager will throw their heart and soul into trying to figure something out. They'll be, they've got 6 different portals up. They've bought all the monitoring tools, right? They're thinking my life is going to get better now, right? It's got to get better now. I've got all the tools. I paid the extra for the licenses. I got the IT onboarded, the access for all these platforms. I've got all the connections set up. Now I'm going to know when stuff is broken. And then they realize that they're the only one that knows when stuff is broken. Stay with me. If I've got 5 portals and each of them is telling me about a vertical slice of my environment, okay, who is the monitoring platform, right? What's the monitoring platform that tells you if the system is working? It's you. You're the monitoring platform. You're the health model. Everything else is device data. That's what you're getting. You're getting telemetry without being able to actually process it in relation to each other. So, we started talking about, a single pane of glass or things like that, right? What does that really mean? What it means is we need to get all the data into one processing engine. Okay. That's the first requirement. It's not a dashboard. Dashboard's a tool for laying on top of data. It's you've got to be able to aggregate data. Okay. And that might mean in some cases we go straight to the device and get the data from the device over some interface. It might mean that we go to some cloud platform and get it through that and use that cloud platform as middleware. We're going to go to our UCC tooling and get some data from that. We're going to get our control system team to push some event data out to us or make it available so I can pull it, right? So now I know, okay, user pressed this button at this time. That's an event I might want to know about when I monitor a system. You have to go extract all this data, and the reality is it's always going to live in different places. So you can't, the strategy of like, well, we'll just use one manufacturer's tool and that'll work. It doesn't work. It fails. It fails largely because you will not have a control system in every single system you deploy. There will come a time where you do not have it. And even if you go server-based, whatever it might be, you are now relying on a single product to all of your data integration. And the reality, right, the ultimate thing that occurs here is you are the manufacturers, like they're your best friend, right? Because you have put them in a impervious position within your organization. They cannot be removed. It's too painful. Instead of being able to say, hey, this vendor isn't really working for us in this country. I need to go to a different vendor in this country for whatever reason. Maybe it's product availability. Maybe there's some chip that's only made in Mexico that isn't available anymore, or whatever it might be. If you can't make those movements, that's a huge business continuity risk. That's a job that's job threatening. So if you have all of your eggs in one basket, that's really, really bad. Now, if you like their management tooling, great, use it. Use it as a piece of middleware. Use it as a way to get some data. That's okay. But they only know about their slice. And what I encourage people to do is if you think about a room and trying to understand a room from a single picture, right? You kind of get what the room looks like from one picture. Sure. Um, But if you add a second picture and a third picture and a fourth picture, right? Changing the angle and having only one picture doesn't really help you. It's not about finding the right angle. It's about having multiple pictures, because when you have multiple perspectives, every single one of those facets, every single one of those images increases our understanding of the space, right? It's why 3D is so useful. So I encourage middleware. I encourage getting data straight from the device and from some cloud, because it lets us be more confident about the data we get so that we can respond to it and kind of know what's going on. So ultimately, tying that whole piece up, the monitoring, AV sucks primarily because the industry never shipped a good way to do this in the first place. It was never a priority. And now that it's becoming a priority for us, we have to demand better from our vendors. They will be happy to give it to you, right? They just need to know what to provide, and they will be more than happy to build what you need and take your money, right? They are more than happy to do that. That's the reality, right? And I think the manufacturers that are on this, they're going to, on this in advance, they're going to have a really good run at the market share that's available here, because it is a huge need, as James said, at and any other organization right now, they're all saying the same thing. I have to monitor stuff yesterday. So the urgency's there, the market's there, the timing is here. There are ways to do it, and that's kind of why I'm here, right? I'm trying to put myself in this position to say, listen, there's a good way to do this, and there's bad ways to do this. Learn from me and try to do it in a way that will actually serve your organization.
So,
Go ahead.
no, Steve, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I, I am, that just gets me really excited about what the future holds. I think the key is that a lot of people don't know how, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably the biggest challenge is,
Yeah.
and knowing that the that this is a possibility is probably the first step.
So, my take, I I agree with everything Fred said, agree with what Steve said, but also my take why I think the trouble is the delay in making this as forefront as it really should be is really a couple things. Is I've been saying this from day one. Everyone knows this is AV is very good at sticking their feet in the ground and saying, I am not moving. This is how I do things. This is what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm taking my ball and going home. Type deal. That's AV in the world. IT is very agile, very limber. They're gonna skate around AV. And we're already seeing that. I hear from people like, well, IT folks are doing this and they're messing it up. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah, but they're getting the job done
Yeah.
because AV is just sitting there going, no, I'm not playing your sandbox. Well, I mean, prime example, let's look at, I'm not going to name any manufacturer, but there are products out there talking about logs. IT folks live and die by their logs. I'm a big one. When I start running into the problem, I look in logs. Well, there are products out there. If you reboot, clears the log.
Mm-hmm.
How useful is that to me? Like zero useful to me. Cool. Now I got a blank log. I don't know what happened when I had to reboot the system. That again is a design fail. People have fixed that. There's also, let's see, that people got comfortable. Like Fred mentioned, is if you go with a manufacturer and they give you that single pane of glass or that insight that you're looking for, they hold you hostage. You're on them. But the thing is, a lot of manufacturers, they kind of believe that. And we saw that during the chip shortage and COVID, where customers is like, hey, I need to do this. I need to move my business forward. And these big manufacturers are like, well, who are you going to go to? We can't do anything. You're stuck with us.
Yeah.
And then they got wise when people moved to the smaller companies that,
Yeah.
were able to help them. And they're like, wait, you left us. Well, yeah, like we're not sticking our feet in the ground and waiting. Business moves on. And like I said, that's really been my pain point with AV from day one. We are very big of digging our feet in, stopping and saying, no, we're not changing. Man, it takes people like Frederick I mean, I'll throw myself in there. We know Frank, Paracott, who are the ones who are being the voices saying, hey, we need to adopt IT standards. Like I know I talk about security as well, which is not part of this discussion, but those are all things that AV should be doing, and they're not doing. I even see it nowadays where AV integrators would be like, "Cool, we can throw stuff on the network. We're going to throw our own AV network in."
Mhm.
Why? Well, we don't want to talk to the network people. They won't listen to us. They don't know what they're doing. I've heard that. I'm like, wait, you mean the SMEs who have built infrastructures for years don't know what they're doing? No, you just don't know how to talk to them,
Yeah.
which I will cover in my VIXA class at InfoComm. Um, so yeah, it's really is we need to leverage the SMEs in fields. We have to branch out and build off of that. I'll end my soapbox.
Yeah,
And
James, I get it, man. I think, the end of the day, the people who are responsible for these systems are really busy, right? They got a lot going on. There's never enough time, right? Half of us are still running SneakerNet to, support systems. And I think that it's important that when we talk about this stuff, that we pivot the conversation a little bit when it comes to like what should we do, what is possible, right? Those types of things to what can I do right now, right? How do I apply this today? What can I do now in order to take advantage of this? Otherwise, I know better than anybody else and saying, oh, well, you can monitor everything in one pane of glass and it's all, haha, everyone's happy, right? No, it's hard. This is a hard path to go down. It is not easy. You need help. Oftentimes, organizations don't have the staff to do this. They need to contract, they need support, whatever it might be. And the manufacturer route can be just an easy answer, to just go, I just got to go with what I can do. I got money, I can buy something, but building something's hard. And that's why I started going down this path of not only teaching the class that I teach at InfoComm, which is basically 3 days focused on what is monitoring, what are the problems, right? This conversation. Um, how can you think about monitoring systemically as a program, right? Like a project, and what are the key components of it, and how do we build the sort of the pyramid, right, of your monitoring infrastructure and environment generically, and then let's actually apply that using some free and open source software so you can see what does it actually look like. And I think it's worth spending a moment on that, on the free and open source software side. Does any software developer, in this day and age, knows that the open source is king in software, and has been, it has been that way in the pure software industry for a really long time. But AV has we have a unique relationship with giving things out for free, and so I don't begrudge anybody for wanting to charge for their software, especially if you're a software company. That's fine. Um, why I say to use open source, why my software is open source in particular, why I use a copyleft license like the AGPL v3, why I do those things is to ensure that anybody who has the skills to host the software can monitor their systems without paying someone else to do it. Because I think this has been gate kept by the people who figured this out. We've kind of gate kept it in the past. It's, oh, well, you got to go with one of the big integrators, for example, because they know how to do this, and you hire their NOC team and they do the stuff because they've got the magic, right? Or you buy a SaaS because they've got the magic. I'm here to tell you there is no magic. There's just how many devices have you built this thing to talk to? And how many of these APIs are you taking in? How flexible are you? And what I learned a long time ago is I would rather be dependent on myself to write drivers and extend a system and what it can talk to than to be dependent on a SaaS to do it. Because I know what a priority is for me and I don't have to wait in a queue for my time. Right. So that's why I started going down the open source route. I went, there just has to be a way to do this where I'm not paying $3 a month per device. It's just robbery. Like it's absolutely extortion for data. Uh, so where I ended up is, listen, I'm going to build what I'm going to build, and I'm going to just make it free. There's no licensing. Nobody can go take this, fork it, and offer a proprietary version. It violates the license. But anybody can go use it to sell and sell the services around and make money in any organization. So integrators can use it, right? End user organizations can use it. It's all good. Yeah, anybody can use it that they want. But what I wanted to do is draw a line in the sand and say, listen, no more of this like per device subscription stuff for basic, the ability to collect data from devices. That's just crazy. So what I ended up doing was using a solution called Zabbix. If anyone's familiar with Zabbix, Zabbix, that is like 25 years old, right? This is 25 years of enterprise IT monitoring, open source, permissive copyleft license, right? Um, and when I realized that, as I talked about with James earlier, when I realized AV is not going to solve this problem on our own. Like we should look to IT for what they've already done. We don't need to build a new monitoring software. That's not the requirement. Monitoring software is commoditized in IT and software. This is not a new idea. It's not a new problem. It's an old problem solved a long time ago. So I went and found, something that was good and could do most of the data collection, had a really good data processing engine, a really good trigger engine, thinks of the world similarly to the way AV people think of the world. Took something like Zabbix, and all I've done is make an opinionated distribution of Zabbix. So it is Zabbix plus some extras that are really focused on AV, like thinking of the world in hierarchical systems and locations, right? Group of devices into a system, they have a type, they have health modeling around that type, they sit in a location tree somewhere. Who knows what your location tree looks like? Doesn't matter, it's yours. You make it the way you want. And then adding a workflow engine to it. That's the other big thing. So that if you need to like do some custom automation, you can drag and drop some nodes in and, to make an HTTP request and make yourself a little piece of middleware to do what you want in low code. So you don't have to write code from scratch for every single little thing. And I think between those two things, my hope is that people will go and use this thing that I call OmniGlass. We'll go use OmniGlass. We'll contribute back to the community and share and talk about it, and we'll help each other out. Because you don't have to pay me or even talk to me to use this thing. Just go use it. Right? It's free. It's out there. So my hope is that is a contribution that will actually help the industry move this forward, and then we can stop having this like competition about it. Well, I can talk to more devices than you can. Well, I've got these drivers and you've got these drivers. Like I don't want to compete on that. I want to help people set this thing up. That's how I make my money. Help them do the implementation, help support their implementation. But I don't see any reason why any large organization shouldn't be able to have their own infrastructure, pay for the servers to host it. That's their cost, and the data that they store, keep all their data in their four walls without ever needing to have it leave their network, right? Never needing it to store on some third party cloud where it's going to go through some data breach eventually, right? In your environment, on your network, in your data center, owned by you, run it for 100 years. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. I think that is the answer that I hope will actually help the industry move forward past this phase we're in of, oh, I'm just going to get 10 different platforms and string them together and hopefully that works. So we'll see though. Maybe I'm the crazy one, like I said, tilting at windmills here. I'm willing to accept that.
So I always have a saying is today they will laugh at you. Tomorrow they will ask for your advice. So no, you are not crazy. You're just to that point where everyone's laughing at you because that's not how we do things too. Now tomorrow they're going to be like, wait, how can we do that?
Everybody's laughing at me.
Sorry,
Well,
that came from coaching. So it's usually when you have
absolutely.
players are trying things new. Oh, you're getting laughed at because you look silly. But now
Yeah,
they coming to you tomorrow going, hey, how can we do that?
absolutely.
Well, great way for us to wrap this up,
Yeah,
especially on a high note. And thank you. Fred, you really brought that to a crescendo. And I think that
Yeah.
the big takeaway is that it's doable. You have your solution, and it isn't something that is unattainable. So thank you. That's really my takeaway from it. So please check out what Fred's doing. He's going to tell you how to reach him in a second, and make sure you if you can attend his class at Infocom, but if nothing else, follow him and check out what he's doing because you're going to get some great insight and information, and he's very open to sharing. So, Fred, how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about that and tell us about your class at Infocom one more time?
absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, the the best, fastest way to move this forward within your organization, whether you are an integrator who's trying to sell services to a bunch of smaller customers, or a technology manager in an enterprise or university or healthcare system, whatever it might be, with thousands of rooms, hundreds of rooms, tens of thousands of devices spread out across the world, whatever it might be, the best possible way to start, in my opinion, is to go to Infocom and attend the Applied Monitoring for AV Systems class. That is the Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's, I think, June 13th is the first Saturday, 13th to the 15th. They are all day classes. You get 24 RUs, CTSD, CTSI, and CTS RUs. So it's a great way to fill those up. It is a pretty advanced class. It's intense, but the hope, is that you're going to go through this thing. You're going to get a really good idea of what the problem space is, understanding the issues with monitoring today. You're going to have a really good framework to use through the AV observability framework to apply in your organization on how to think about monitoring and how to build it out for you. And you're going to have lots of really practical hands-on examples with OmniGlass, so that you understand, like, here's how the general concepts work. Whether you use something else or not doesn't actually matter because the concepts are general. How you get data from devices, what data you're looking for, how to turn it into a health model, how to align it with the business requirements. All those things are the kinds of things we go through in the class. So from technology manager, people leader, to programmer, to engineer, to consultant who wants to be more knowledgeable about specifying for observability and helping their customers there, to managed service providers and integrators and service managers. If monitoring is a part of your life, if you're responsible for some volume of AV systems, this is a really, really impactful class. And don't just take my word for it. Go to my LinkedIn and look. I've been posting the comments from my students over the last several years. There's lots of good quotes out there, and happy to put anyone in touch if they want to, benchmark that. So you can go to that. That's the best way to get started. And if you just want to get more content and learn more about me, LinkedIn is the best place to start. You can find me on LinkedIn, find the Hyperscale AV page on LinkedIn. You can, of course, go to my website, hyperscaleav.com. But reach out anytime, and stay tuned for OmniGlass. It's not publicly released yet, but it will be very, very shortly. Definitely before Infocom, maybe before this episode is even released. So we are moving very quickly on that, and I'm excited to share it with the world and start to get some community collaboration going and help some people.
Awesome. You heard it here first. So check it out. Um, Thanks again, Fred. And it's been a great 2 episodes. If you like this episode, you're going to like the previous one as well. So please check out both episode 263 and this one, 264. Um, James, how can people get in touch with you, find out what you're up to, and also if you have some final words and thoughts from this episode?
Final words are, if you can, attend Fred's class at Infocom. I will say I am actually going to look into see if I can attend those, because I've definitely is interest more into what Fred had to share. The words I was looking for last episode, the shameless plugs. I will be doing 4 sessions at Infocom as well. So if you're trying to get a hold of me, I will be busy running around. Tuesday, I am doing a When Technology Outpace People session. So that's on Tuesday night. And then I'm also doing a lab that on Wednesday of how to design a classroom. So that's a 2-hour lab. And then on Thursday is I'm doing a Network 101 or Network for AV. And then that's in the morning. And then the afternoon is a tour of our beautiful medical education building. So those are my shameless plugs for Infocom. If you really want to try to get a hold of me, Google me, you'll find me. I'm out there.
Fantastic. And it's going to be in your home city of Las Vegas. So
Yep.
also great to connect with him. And maybe you'll get to see a couple hours of the trade show. Who knows?
Maybe. I'll try.
But this is why I try to lobby for a longer event. So there's just always too much to take in, and you always have to make some sacrifices in where you're going to. And I too, I'm real intrigued and excited about Fred's class. If I could afford to go for the extra days, I would at this point too. I don't know that I could, but it sounds really awesome. So I'm looking forward to hearing from that. And um, kudos to you, Fred, for getting the great feedback that you're getting from the past attendees. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing session.
Yeah.
For me, you could reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social platforms. LinkedIn is the most prominent one, and I too am teaching a session at InfoComm on Tuesday about understanding personality types and applying them to the roles in the AV world. So it's a great way to learn how to work with other people in your organization and in other organizations. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we build some of the components that programmers use to get their projects done, whether you're integrating products or adding functionality. You could find out more about that at controlconcepts.net. And if you are interested in this show, if you want to continue this conversation, the best place to do that is in our LinkedIn group for Ask the Programmer. Please check that out, join, it's free. And we're going to continue to have more conversations and share more about these podcasts. And Fred is also a member of that group, so you can find him there as well. And if you are watching, you can also listen to us on your favorite podcast player. And if you are listening to us now, you can catch us on YouTube. Great places to leave a rating, review, or comment. And we'd really like to hear from you. And we'd really like to bring more people and voices and deliver more content as we have been with the fantastic guests that we've been having recently. So until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has been Ask the Programmer.